I'll start with you, big baller.
I'm going to start off with Logan Thomas, the tight end for Washington. He was not actually somebody who was terribly on my radar until this week, but after watching that game against Philadelphia, it really looks like Logan Thomas is going to be the second receiving option beyond Terry McLaurin. He got a pretty high volume with 8 targets, only came down with 4 receptions, 37 yards, and a touchdown. But given just the state of this offense, they need to throw it somewhere. And Logan Thomas, he flashed week 1 that he might be the second guy up. Obviously, there's Steven Sims. They're dealing with some injuries. Gandy Golden is still getting acclimated. So Logan Thomas could be that number 2 guy on this offense. And it doesn't have the highest ceiling, but if you're in a league that's looking for tight ends, or you need somebody to pick up and go for that touchdown, basically 15 fantasy points this week, that's absolutely usable. Logan Thomas on offense. And flipping over to the defensive side is actually a guy who we haven't seen in about 8 years. I'm gonna call his name right now because I'm thinking he's gonna have a really good season. Reports out of camp were fire. I'm gonna go with Aldon Smith. I know he's on waivers just about everywhere, but this dude came out and had a game against the Rams. I think it was 9 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble. Aldon Smith was the talk of the broadcast. If you were watching, Chris Collinsworth would not shut up about Aldon Smith and the word coming out of camp, and this man with the heavy hands, and this man with the long arms, and everything that he was doing, and how he was getting involved, and how he was disrupting. Aldon Smith is my IDP waiver wire guy to go grab or go put on your watch list, because one more week like this, and I promise you, he's not going to be on waiver wires.
Admittedly, I didn't really watch much of that game. Something about those Rams jerseys, man, they just don't really mesh well with my eyesight. Nye, pick two.
Gonna go offensively with O.J. Howard. A little bit under the radar. He had 6 targets with 4 catches for 34 yards or 36 yards and a touchdown. You think he's going to be the primary target at tight end this year for the Buccaneers? 6 targets is pretty good. I think he gets better as the year goes on. I think Tom Brady is going to focus on that middle of the field with guys like Scotty Miller and O.J. Howard and Rob Gronkowski. I think O.J. Howard is a guy you can sneakily pick up, especially if guys like Dallas Goedert are gone. O.J. Howard may be a guy you can get second tier who might be able to give you some production, maybe give you a double-digit day, and anything really after that is all buttercream. Defensively, Jerome Baker with the Miami Dolphins. I literally was going to snatch him up. This guy had a phenomenal game as an IDP. I think he had like 12 tackles or 16 tackles, excuse me. He was all over the place. Tackle for loss. He had a sack and a forced fumble. A guy that I will be keeping my eye on, especially with Waiver Wire Wednesday coming up.
Kosher, Killa, pick 2, my brother.
I will also go under the radar with my offensive pick, and I'm going to go Mohomed Sanu, who just signed with the 49ers today. We saw that Kendrick Bourne wasn't able to take advantage of the increased target share on Sunday. We know that Sanu is a consistent receiver, whether it's been with Atlanta or with New England. He reminds me, honestly, a lot of Marvin Jones on Detroit. He might not be the flashiest guy, but damn, is he going to help you extend drives? Is he going to rack up targets and catches? It might not be for a ton of yards each time, but those are going to add up. I think he's going to be a sneaky and a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 play. Defensively, I also had my eye on Jerome Baker, so I'll go with Marcus Maye, the Jets safety. We saw him involved in a lot of plays, also had a forced fumble. We know that teams are going to be willing to throw on the Jets because they don't have Jamal Adams, and that means that there's going to be more opportunities for Maye to make plays from the secondary.
For me, I've got Chris Herndon. He's a player that I had on my keepers last year. He might be available in most leagues. I felt like he did pretty well against the Bills team that is really good usually about shutting down opposing tight ends. I fully expect his targets to go up with the injury to Le'Veon Bell, with them putting Denzel Mims on injury reserve. I think that sets up really well for his trajectory going forward. And for defense, I kind of cheated. I basically picked the entire Washington football team's defensive line. I notice a lot of these guys are on waivers. So if you got a Ryan Kerrigan out there, if you got a Montez Sweat out there in your league, a Jonathan Allen, if you're lucky enough to have a Chase Young available in your league, go get one of those guys, any of those guys. They all play very, very well off each other. If one of those guys eats, what we saw in week 1 is most of those guys are going to eat.
I'll add, obviously, we're advocating for guys like Naheem Hines, who's out there, Benny Snell, Malcolm Brown, Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Dallas Goedert, Josh Adams with Le'Veon Bell being hurt. You mentioned Logan Thomas, Robbie Anderson, Corey Davis. These are all guys that, that you could probably find out there on the waiver wires.